A student returns home to a seemingly normal life with his girlfriend, but a forgotten recorder reveals a shocking betrayal. After confronting the truth with a silent exit, he cuts ties and finds peace in solitude, proving silence can be the ultimate punishment. I got home after a long day at school, the weight of lectures and notes lifting as I stepped through the door. The apartment smelled like dinner, something with garlic, and I felt that usual calm settle in, the routine kicking in. I dropped my bag by the couch, the thud soft, and kicked off my shoes, the floor cool under my socks. Anna was in the kitchen, humming, her back to me as she stirred a pot. I said, "Hey, I'm back," my voice tired but easy, and she turned smiling, "Hey, good day?" Everything seemed normal, just like always. The evening started smooth. I hung my jacket on the hook, the fabric rustling, and walked over, peering into the pot. Pasta, maybe. She said, "Almost ready," wiping her hands on a towel, and I nodded. "Smells good." I grabbed a glass in the cabinet, the clink light, and filled it with water, the tap running. We chatted about the usual, my class on history, her shift at the cafe, and I leaned against the counter, sipping, feeling the day fade. She laughed at a story about a professor's bad joke, and I chuckled. The kitchen warm, nothing out of place. I settled in. After a minute, I sat at the table, the chair creaking, and pulled out my phone, scrolling through messages, nothing urgent. Anna asked, "Want help with anything?" And I said, "Nah, just chilling." My tone relaxed. She plated the pasta, the steam rising, and set it in front of me, saying, "Try this." I took a bite, the sauce tangy, and said, "Nice," giving her a nod. The radio played low, some pop song, and I tapped my foot, the rhythm familiar, the night unfolding like any other. We talked more. She sat across from me, her plate full, and said, "Busy day at work?" I said, "Yeah, tons of notes." And she smiled, "You'll ace it." I ate, the fork scraping, and told her about a group project, the team a mess. She listened, nodding, and said, "You'll figure out," her voice steady. I finished my water, the glass empty, and got up to refill it, the tap cold. She asked about a friend, and I said, "He's good," keeping it light, the conversation flowing. The place felt homey. I'd lived here with Anna for a year, the small apartment cluttered with her plants and my books. After dinner, I cleared the plates, the sink splashing, and she dried them, the towel flapping. I said, "Thanks for cooking," and she said, "Anytime," her smile warm. I grabbed a sketchbook from the shelf, the pages worn, and started doodling, the pencil scratching. She joined me, flipping through a magazine, and the room was cozy, the radio humming, nothing seeming off. I relaxed deeper. Later, I made tea, the kettle whistling, and brought her a cup, the steam rising. She said, "You're sweet?" And I said, "Just fair," laughing softly. We sat on the couch, the cushions sinking, and watched the show, the TV flickering. I stretched my back stiff, and she asked, "Tough day?" I said, "A bit," my voice easy. The episode ended, and I got up to grab a snack, chips in the cabinet, the bag crinkling, and offered her some, the night routine. The calm held. We talked about plans, weekend study, her next shift, and I said, "Maybe a movie Saturday?" She said, "Sounds good," her tone bright. I ate the chips, the salt sharp, and sketched a quick tree, the line smooth. She got out to water a plant, the pot clinking, and I watched, thinking how normal it all was. The kitchen clock ticked, the hands at 7:30, and I felt settled, the day behind me, no hint of anything strange. I didn't notice. After the show, I made more tea, the kettle loud, and sat back down, the cup warm. She asked, "Need help with notes?" And I said, "Maybe later, my mind on the sketch." She laughed at a meme on her phone, showing me, and I grinned, the moment light. I got up to stretch, the room cozy, and checked my bag, books, pens. All there. She said, "Dinner was good, right?" And I said, "Yeah, perfect," my voice calm, unaware of what might lurk beneath. The night wound down. Around 10 o'clock, I yawned, saying, "Bed soon?" And she nodded, "Yeah, long day." I cleared the cups, the sink splashing, and she folded the towel, the fabric neat. I sketched a bit more, the pencil soft, and she brushed her teeth, the bathroom light flickering. I went to bed, the sheets cool, and she joined me, her breathing steady. The apartment was quiet, the day done, and I fell asleep, peaceful, noticing nothing strange. The return, just another night. The next day, I got home from school, the routine feeling the same, and dropped my bag by the couch, the thud familiar. Anna was out, probably at her cafe shift, and the apartment was quiet, the kitchen still smelling of last night's pasta. I kicked off my shoes, the floor cool, and decided to unpack, figuring I'd sort through the day's mess. I unzipped the bag, the zipper loud, and pulled out my books, the pages worn, then my notebook, the ink smudged. That's when I saw it. My recorder, the little red light blinking, still running from lectures. I froze, surprised, realized it had been on for hours. I stared at it. The device sat there, black and compact, the battery icon low but steady. I picked it up, the plastic cool, and pressed stop, the click sharp in the silence. I thought back. Had I left it on after class? Maybe during that group discussion. The prof droning on about history dates. I rewound it a bit, the tape whirring, and saw it had recorded over 6 hours. I muttered, "What the heck?" to myself, scratching my head, and set it on the table, the light fading. The bag still held pens, a water bottle, all normal, but this felt off. I dug deeper. I emptied the bag, the contents spilling. A crumpled receipt, a granola bar wrapper, my charger cord tangled. The recorder stood out, its presence odd, and I wonder how I'd missed it. I grabbed a glass, the cabinet creaking, and filled it with water, the tap running, trying to piece it together. Had it been on all day? I sat on the couch, the cushion sinking, and turned it over, the label scratched, thinking about the lecture hall noise it might have caught. I sipped the water, the taste flat, and felt a flicker of curiosity. I checked the time. The display showed 6:32 p.m., the apartment dim, and I figured Anna would be home soon. I plugged the recorder into my laptop, the USB clicking, and opened the file, the progress bar loading. It was a long audio track, timestamp from morning, and I scrolled through, the waveform jagged. I grabbed a snack, chips from the cabinet, the bag crinkling, and munched, the salt sharp, wondering what else it might hold. The kitchen clock ticked, the hands at 6:35, and I leaned back, the curiosity growing. The bag held clues. I went back to it, pulling out my jacket, the fabric rustling, and checked the pockets. Nothing but lint. The recorder's case was in there too, the latch stuck, and I pried it open, finding spare batteries, the metal cold. I thought about the day, class, the library, a quick coffee run, and realized I'd use it to record notes, forgetting to turn it off. I laughed softly, saying, "Clumsy me," and set aside, the bag empty now. I made tea, the kettle whistling, and sat with the cup, the steam rising, the surprise settling. I listened briefly. I hit play on the laptop, the speaker crackling, and heard the lecture, muffled voices, a chair scraping. I fast-forwarded, the sound speeding up, and paused at a gap, maybe a break. I grabbed my sketchbook, the pages flipping, and doodled a tree, the pencil soft while the file ran. The chips were gone, the bag crumpled, and I tossed it, the trash can thudding. The clock hit 6:45, and I thought about dinner, the kitchen quiet, the recorder a puzzle I hadn't solved. The apartment waited. I got up, stretching, my back stiff, and checked the fridge. Leftovers, maybe. The recorder blinked, the file still open, and I saved it, the click satisfying. I thought about Anna, her laugh from last night, and felt normal, the day winding down. I washed the glass, the sink splashing, and sat back on the couch, the cushions familiar, the tea cooled, the cup warm, and I sketched more, the line smooth, the bag unpacked, the surprise a small hiccup. I didn't overthink. Later, I made coffee, the kettle loud, and sat at the table, the recorder nearby. I replayed a snippet, the prof's voice, clear now, and chuckled, thinking I'd review it later. The apartment was still, the clock at 7 o'clock, and I heard Anna's key in the lock. She walked in saying, "Hey, I'm back," and I said, "Hey, good shift?" My tone easy. She nodded, dropping her bag, the thud soft, and I smiled, the recorder forgotten for now. The night rolled on. We chatted about her day, rude customers, a tipped coffee, and I said, "Rough one," my voice calm. She cooked rice, the pot bubbling, and I set the table, the plates clinking. I ate, the taste mild, and she asked, "How was school?" I said, "Long but fine, keeping it light." The radio played, a soft tune, and I sketched, the pencil moving. The recorder sat silent, the surprise a minor note, and I went to bed, the sheets cool, the day done, unaware of what might come. After finding the recorder still on, I couldn't shake the curiosity, so I decided to listen to what it had caught. The apartment was quiet, and at her cafe shift, and I sat at the kitchen table, the wood scratched, with a device plugged into my laptop. The red light was off now, the battery low, and I hit play, the speaker crackling with static. At first, it was just noise, classroom hum, chair scrapes, the professor's muffled voice from the lecture. I leaned back, sipping coffee, the cup warm, expecting nothing more, but then her voice broke through, and everything changed. The audio shifted. I fast-forwarded past the lecture, the sound speeding up, and paused at a gap, the waveform flat. I played it, the speaker hissing, and heard Anna's laugh, soft, familiar, followed by a man's voice, low and unclear. I frowned, the coffee cooling, and turned up the volume, the kitchen clock ticking at 6 o'clock. The voices overlapped, her saying, "Wait, let me get that," and him chuckling, the tone intimate. I sat up, my heart picking up, and grabbed a notebook, the pages flipping, unsure what I was hearing. It got clearer. I rewound, the tape whirring, and played again, the audio sharpening. Her voice said, "You're funny," and the man replied, "Only for you," his words slow. I recognized her laugh, the one she used with me, but it felt different, warmer, closer. I sipped the coffee, the taste bitter, and heard a rustle like fabric, then a sigh. My hand shook, the mug clinking on the table, and I leaned in, the speaker crackling with touches, soft thuds, a bed creaking. I froze, the kitchen silent, the playback pulling me in, the sounds deepened. I fast-forwarded, the sound warping, and stopped at a louder part, laughter, hers, then his, followed by phrases. She said, "He'd never get this," and he murmured, "Good thing," the intimacy cutting. I gripped the table, the woodruff, and heard more, a rustle, a gasp, bed sounds muffled but unmistakable. I wanted to stop, but my finger hovered, the recorder running. The clock hit 6:10, and I sat there, the coffee forgotten, listening to every second, the betrayal unfolding. I couldn't look away. The audio ran, her voice saying, "Stay a bit," and him replying, "Always," the word a knife. I thought about last night, her smile, our talk, and felt sick, the kitchen warm. The bed creaked again, the rhythm steady, and I heard a laugh, hers, sharp and free, nothing like with me. I grabbed a chip from the counter, the bag crinkling, but didn't eat, just held it, the salt stinging my fingers. The playback hit 20 minutes, and I kept going, the sound a loop I couldn't escape. The details emerged. I rewound to a clear part, the speaker clear, and heard her say, "He's too busy," the man laughing, his loss. I clenched my jaw, the notebook blank, and played on, the audio catching a touch, her giggle as murmur. The bed sounds faded, replaced by whispers, and I pictured her face, the one I trusted. I got up, pacing, the floor cold, and made tea, the kettle whistling, but didn't drink, the cup steaming. The clock ticked to 6:20, and I sat back, the playback relentless. The truth sank in. I heard her say, "This is ours," and him, "Forever," the words deliberate. The bed creaked again, the rhythm picking up, and I felt my chest tighten, the kitchen spinning. I grabbed my sketchbook, the pencil shaking, and drew jagged lines, the paper tearing. The audio hit 30 minutes, her voice soft, he'd hate this, and his laugh low. I stopped pacing, the chip crumbling in my hand, and listened, the sounds, touches, sighs, bed, filling the room, my mind reeling. I listened fully. The playback reached 40 minutes, the audio winding down, rustles, a door, silence. I heard her say, "He never will," the finality chilling in him, "Good," the word fading. I sat, the recorder still, the speaker quiet, and stared at the laptop, the file complete. The kitchen clock hit 6:30, the tea cold, and I felt numb, the sounds etched in me. I saved the file, the click loud, and closed it, the screen dark, the betrayal weight I couldn't lift. The night waited. I made more coffee, the kettle loud, and sat, the cup warm, sketching nothing. Anna's key turned, her voice calling, "Hey, I'm back," and I said, "Hey," my tone flat. She dropped her bag, the thud soft, and I nodded, the recorder hidden. We ate rice, the pot bubbling, and she asked, "Good day?" I said, "Yeah," my mind on the playback. I went to bed, the sheets cool, and lay awake, her breathing steady, the sounds, laughter, bed, "He never will," haunting me. After hearing those first bed sounds on the recorder, I couldn't bring myself to hit stop. My finger hovered, but my heart wouldn't let me. The apartment was still, Anna at her cafe shift, and I sat at the kitchen table, the wood scratched, the laptop screen glowing with the audio file. The playback had hit me hard. Her laugh, a man's voice, the intimacy, and now I was trapped, listening as the 40-minute segment unfolded. My chest pounded, the beats loud in my ears, and I leaned in, the speaker crackling, unable to tear myself away from the truth spilling out. The audio pulled me in. I rewound to the start of the segment, the tape whirring, and played it again, the noise sharpening. Her voice came first, soft and teasing, saying you're late, and the man chuckled, worth it. I gripped the table, the edge rough, and felt my breath catch, the kitchen clock ticking at 6:40. The sounds grew, rustles, a sigh, the bed creaking, and I sat there, my hand shaking, the coffee cup cold beside me. I wanted to stop, but my thumb stayed still, the recording dragging me deeper. Her laughter cut. I heard her giggle, the sound bright and free, something she'd never used with me, and the man said, "You're amazing," his tone warm. I clenched my jaw, the notebook blank, and listened as she replied, better than him, her words a stab. The bed creaked again, the rhythm steady, and I pictured her face, the one I trusted, now twisted with someone else. I grabbed a chip from the counter, the bag crinkling, but it fell, the salt scattering, my focus locked on the audio, unable to pause. The phrases hit hard. She said he's so boring, and the man laughed. Good thing I'm not, the intimacy raw. I stood, pacing, the floor cold, and heard her murmur, stay longer, her voice low. My heart raced, the beats uneven, and I leaned against the counter, the sink dripping. The recorder ran, the speaker hissing with touches, soft thuds, a gasp, and I sat back down, the chair creaking, my hands sweaty. I sipped the coffee, the taste stale, and kept listening, the 10-minute mark passing, the truth unrelenting. The bed sounds grew. I heard the creak sharpen, the rhythm picking up, and her sigh, deep in content, followed by his low laugh. I rubbed my face, the stubble rough, and thought about last night. Her smile, our talk, now a lie. The audio hit 15 minutes, and she said, he'd never understand. The man replying, he doesn't need to. I grabbed my sketchbook, the pages flipping, and drew jagged lines, the pencil snapping. I tossed it, the book thudding, and sat, the playback pulling me, my heart a drum. She spoke differently. Her voice said, you make me feel alive, and he murmured, always will, the words deliberate. I paced again, the kitchen warm, and heard a rustle like sheets, then her laugh, sharp and wild, nothing I had known. I grabbed a glass, the cabinet creaking, and filled it with water, the tap cold, but didn't drink, just held it, the condensation dripping. The clock hit 6:50, and I sat, the audio at 20 minutes. The bed sounds a loop I couldn't escape. The intimacy deepened. She said, this is ours, and he replied, forever, the promise cutting. The bed creaked louder, the rhythm steady, and I felt sick, the kitchen spinning. I grabbed a towel, the fabric rough, and wiped my hands, the sweat cold. The recorder hit 25 minutes, her voice soft, he's clueless, and his chuckle low. I leaned back, the chair groaning, and listened, the sounds, touches, sighs, bed, filling the room, my mind reeling, unable to stop. Her words stung. At 30 minutes, she laughed again, saying he'd hate this, and the man said, let him, the defiance clear. I stood, pacing, the floor creaking, and heard a rustle, a door, then silence breaking with her murmur, he never will know. My breath stopped, the phrase a blade, and I sat, the glass slipping, water splashing. The clock ticked to 7 o'clock, the audio at 35 minutes. The bed sounds fading, her voice a ghost, his laugh a echo. The end loomed. The playback hit 40 minutes, the audio winding down, rustles a sigh, a door closing. I heard her say, he never will, the finality chilling in him. Good. The word fading. I sat, the recorder still, the speaker quiet, and stared at the laptop, the file complete. The kitchen clock hit 7:10, the coffee cold, the water pooled, and I felt numb, the sounds etched in me. I saved the file, the click loud, and closed it, the screen dark, the betrayal weight I couldn't lift, my heart still racing. I tried to move. I made tea, the kettle whistling, and sat, the cup warm, sketching nothing, the lines blank. The apartment waited, the clock at 7:15, and I heard Anna's key, her voice calling, hey, I'm back. But I didn't answer, just stared. She dropped her bag, the thud soft, and walked in, saying, "You okay?" I nodded, my voice gone, the recorder hidden. We ate rice, the pot bubbling, and she asked, "Good day?" I said, "Yeah." My mind on the playback, the 40 minutes of Scar. The night dragged. I sat on the couch, the cushion sinking, and she joined, flipping a magazine. I sipped the tea, the taste flat, and thought about her laugh, her words. "He never will know." Burning. The radio played, a soft tune, and I sketched, the pencil shaky. She said, "Tired?" And I said, "A bit," my tone hollow. I went to bed, the sheets cool, and lay awake, her breathing steady, the sounds, laughter, bed, her final phrase, haunting me, unable to stop the replay in my head. After listening to that damning 40-minute recording, the night felt different, heavy with a silence I couldn't break. Anna was home, back from her cafe shift, and I was there too, the apartment quiet except for the hum of the fridge. I knew the truth. Her laugh with another man, the bed sounds, her words, "He never will know." But she didn't, and I kept it locked inside. My chest burned, the betrayal fire. But I sat on the couch, sketching jagged lines, the pencil scratching, pretending everything was fine. She walked in saying, "Hey, you okay?" And I nodded, "Yeah, just tired." My voice a mask. The evening started tense. She headed to the kitchen, the floor creaking, and started dinner. Chicken and rice, the smell familiar but hollow now. I got up, stretching my stiff back, and grabbed a glass, the cabinet clinking, filling it with water, the tap cold. She said, "Long day?" And I said, "Yeah, school stuff." Keeping it vague, my mind on the playback, her sighs, his murmurs. I sipped the water, the taste flat, and leaned against the counter, watching her stir. Her hands the ones I'd heard on that recording, the fire inside growing. We ate in silence. She set the table, the plates clattering, and we sat, the chicken steaming. She asked, "How was class?" And I said, "Fine," my tone short, avoiding her eyes. The rice was bland, the fork scraping, and I thought about her laugh, wild, not mine, burning in my head. She tried again, "Any projects?" And I said, "A few," my voice steady but hollow. The kitchen clock ticked, the hand at 7 o'clock, and I ate, the food tasteless, the silence between us thick, my turmoil hidden. I maintained the facade. After a bite, she said, "I had a rough shift," and I nodded, "Tough customers?" My word mechanical. She sighed, "Yeah, one spilled coffee," and I said, "Messy," forcing a smile. The plate was half empty, and I got up to refill my water, the sink splashing, my hands trembling slightly. She watched, saying, "You sure you're okay?" And I said, "Just beat," brushing it off. The radio played low, a soft tune, and I sat back, the chair creaking, the fire inside a quiet rage. The routine dragged. She cleared the plates, the sink running, and I dried them, the towel rough, our hands brushing, the same hands in the audio. I pulled back, the contact cold, and she frowned. "Cold hands?" I said, "Yeah," my voice flat. We moved to the couch, the cushion sinking, and she flipped a magazine, saying, "Want to watch something?" I said, "Sure," my tone distant. The TV flickered on, a show starting, and I sketched, the lines uneven, the silent a wall, my knowing a secret. I watched her closely. She laughed at the show, the sound sharp, and I thought about her other laugh, free with him, and felt the burn deepen. She said, "This part's funny," and I nodded, "Yeah," my smile fake. The clock hit 7:30, and I got up, stretching, the room warm, grabbing a snack, chips in the cabinet, the bag crinkling. I offered her some, and she took a handful, saying, "Thanks," her voice light. I ate, the salt stinging, my mind on the bed creaks, the fire raging silently. The night stretched. She made tea, the kettle whistling, and brought me a cup, the steam rising. I said, "Thanks," my tone neutral, and sipped, the taste bitter. She sat close, saying, "Tough week?" And I said, "A bit," my eyes on her hands, picturing them with him. The TV droned, the show ending, and I sketched more, the pencil shaky. She yawned, saying, "Bed soon?" And I said, "Yeah," my voice hollow, the silence between us a chasm. I stayed detached. Later, I made coffee, the kettle loud, and sat at the table, the cup warm, sketching nothing. She joined, saying, "Nice lines," and I said, "Thanks," my focus elsewhere. The clock ticked to 9 o'clock, and she brushed her teeth, the bathroom light flickering. I stood by the window, the street dark, thinking about, he never will know, the fire a constant. She came back, saying, "Coming," And I said, soon, my tone cold, the facade holding. The bed was tense. We laid down, the sheets cool, her breathing steady, and I stared at the ceiling, the playback looping, her laugh, his touch, her words. She murmured, night, and I said, yeah, my voice dead. The room was quiet, the clock at 10 o'clock, and I felt the burn, the silence a shield, my knowing a weight. The next day, I went to class, my notes a blur, a friend asking about dinner, and I said, it was okay, my mind elsewhere. At lunch, I ate alone, the cafeteria loud, replaying her voice. I held it in. At home, I fixed a leaky faucet, the drip stopping, and she asked, good day? I said, fine, my eyes on her hands. I cooked pasta, eating solo, and she tried, quiet night. I said, yeah, my tone flat. The radio played, a soft tune, and I sketched, the lines jagged, the silence a barrier. That evening, I jogged, the air crisp, trying to shake it, but the weight stayed. I returned, the apartment still, and went to bed, her breathing soft, the night of silence a mask of fire within. After that night of silence, the recording haunted me, and I couldn't let it go. I needed to replay it not with pain now, but with a cold resolve. The apartment was empty, Anna at her cafe shift, and I sat at the kitchen table, the wood scratched, the recorder plugged into my laptop. The betrayal, her laugh, the man's voice he never will know, had burned out into a numb chill, and I wanted to understand it fully. I hit play, the speaker crackling, and listened again, rewinding, slowing it down, noting every detail, names, times, intonations, to lock in my mind, erasing any doubt. The first replay began. I started at the 10-minute mark, the tape whirring, and heard her giggle, you're late, the man's chuckle, worth it. I leaned back, the chair creaking, and sipped coffee, the cup warm, my heart steady now, the pain replaced by ice. I slowed the audio, the voices stretching, and caught her tone, teasing, not mine. I grabbed a notebook, the pages flipping, and jotted 10:15 laugh, the ink smudging. The kitchen clock ticked at 6 o'clock, and I played on, the bed creaked clear, my focus sharp. I analyzed deeper. I rewound to 15 minutes, the sound warping, and played, her voice saying, better than him, the man's laugh low. I paused, the speaker silent, and noted 15-20 comparison, the coldness growing. I got up, stretching my stiff back, and made tea, the kettle whistling, the steam rising. I sat back, the cup warm, and slowed again, hearing the rhythm, bed sounds, her sigh, timing it at 1600 hours. I wrote 1600 hours intimacy, the details piling up, my doubt fading. The names emerged. At 20 minutes, I rewound, the tape clicking, and heard her say, this is ours. The man replying, forever. I paused, the clock at 6:10, and noted 20:05, ours, male voice deep. I recognized a hint. Maybe Tom slipped out his tone firm and wrote 2010 Tom, the name a clue. I grabbed chips, the bag crinkling, and ate, the salt sharp, replaying confirm. The bed creaked, her laugh wild, and I slowed it, fixing 2015 Tom confirmed, the coldness solidifying. The intonation stood out. I hit 25 minutes, the audio stretching, and heard her murmur, he's clueless, his chuckle, let him. I paused, the speaker quiet, and noted 25:00, dismissive, her voice sharp, not soft like with me. I stood, pacing, the floor cold, and made more coffee, the kettle loud, the aroma filling the room. I sat, the cup steaming, and slowed it, catching her inflection, mocking new, and wrote 25:10, mocking tone. The details a map, my resolve hardening. The timeline built. At 30 minutes, I rewound, the sound warping, and played, her saying he'd hate this, the man. Good. I paused, the clock at 6:20, and noted 30:05, hate, the time stamped. I grabbed my sketchbook, the pages turning, and drew a clock, the lines precise, marking 30:10 for a rustle. I slowed it, the bed sounds faint, and wrote 30:15 movement. The audio a puzzle I pieced together. The chips were gone, the bag crumpled, and I tossed it, the trash can thudding, the final words locked in. I reached 35 minutes, the tape clicking, and heard her murmur, he never will know, the man's good, fading. I paused, the clock at 6:30, and noted 35:00 finality, her tone cold, deliberate. I rewound, slowing it, and replayed. The phrase stretching, never will know, the intonation a stab. I wrote 35:05, cold delivery, the detail clear, and sipped the coffee, the taste bitter, the coldness a shield, no doubt left. I reviewed it all. I scrolled the file, the waveform jagged, and replayed snippets. 10:15 laugh, 20:05 hours, 35:00 no. Each note checked. The kitchen was still, the clock at 6:40, and I made tea again, the kettle whistling, the cup warm. I sat, sketching a timeline, the pencil smooth, marking times and tones. The recorder blinked, the battery low, and I saved the notes, the click loud, the audio a record I mastered. The night waited. I heard Anna's key, her voice calling, "Hey, I'm back." And I said, "Hey," my tone flat. She dropped her bag, the thud soft, and I nodded, the recorder hidden. We ate rice, the pot bubbling, and she asked, "Good day?" I said, "Yeah," my mind on the replays. The radio played, a soft tune, and I sketched, the line steady. She said, "Tired?" And I said, "A bit." My voice cold. I went to bed, the sheets cool, her breathing steady. The replays a cold truth I owned. The next day held. I went to class, my notes a blur. A friend asking about dinner, and I said, it was okay. My mind elsewhere. At lunch, I ate alone, the cafeteria loud, reviewing Tom. 35:00. I jogged, the air crisp, the weight steady. Home, I fixed a leaky faucet, the drip stopping, and she asked, "Good day?" I said, "Fine," my eyes on her hands. I cooked pasta, eating solo, and sketched. The lines precise, the replays a foundation, no pain, just cold certainty. After pinning down every detail from the replays, I knew I had to do something with that recording. It was time to prepare. The apartment was quiet, Anna at her cafe shift, and I sat at the kitchen table. The wood scratched, the laptop humming with the audio files still open. The coldness had settled. The truth about her and Tom locked in my mind, her laugh, his voice. He never will know. And I decided to copy it, to make it real. I grabbed a flash drive from the drawer, the plastic cool, and plugged it in, the USB clicking, my plan taking shape. The copying started. I opened the file, the waveform jagged, and dragged it to the drive, the progress bar loading slow. I leaned back, the chair creaking, and sipped coffee, the cup warm, thinking about where to put it. The kitchen clock ticked at 6 o'clock, and I watched the transfer. 10%, 20%. The audio a weapon now. I got up, stretching my stiff back, and made tea, the kettle whistling, the steam rising. The drive finished, the ding loud, and I ejected it, the plastic fur in my hand. The first step done, I labeled it. I found a marker, the cap popping, and wrote, "Play me," on the drive, the ink bold. I held it, the letters clear, and felt a chill. This was it, the moment she'd face it. I paced, the floor cold, and thought about hiding it, maybe in the desk drawer with old cables, the metal clanking as I opened it. I tucked it under a charger, the cord tangled, and closed it, the drawer thudding. The clock hit 6:10, and I sat, sketching a quick line, the pencil soft, wondering if that was enough. I reconsidered. The drawer felt too safe, too easy to miss, and I stood, the chair scraping, grabbing the drive again. The kitchen was still, the tea cooling, and I thought about her finding it, her shock, her guilt. I decided on the pillow, her side of the bed, where she'd see it first. I walked to the bedroom, the carpet rough, and lifted the pillow, the fabric soft, placing the drive on the case, the edge peeking out. The clock ticked to 6:15, and I stepped back, the plan shifting, the preparation reel. The apartment waited. I returned to the kitchen, making more coffee, the kettle loud, and sat, the cups steaming. I replayed the file briefly, the speaker crackling with her laugh, better than him, and stopped it, the silence heavy. I wrote a note, the paper crinkling. Listen to this. But tore it, the pieces falling. Too much. The clock hit 6:20, and I grabbed chips, the bag crinkling, eating, the salt sharp, my mind on the pillow. I sketched the clock, the lines precise, marking the time, the drive a silent threat. I double-checked. I went back to the bedroom, the door creaking, and adjusted the drive, the plastic snug under the pillow. The bed was neat, the sheets cool, and I pictured her face, her smile, now a lie. I returned to the kitchen, the floor cold, and made tea again, the kettle whistling, the cup warm. The clock ticked to 6:30, and I sat, sketching a pillow, the lines jagged, the preparation await. I thought about Tom's voice, forever, and felt the coldness, the drive her reckoning. The night approached. I heard Anna's key, her voice calling, "Hey, I'm back." And I said, "Hey," my tone flat. She dropped her bag, the thud soft, and I nodded, the drive hidden. We ate rice, the pot bubbling, and she asked, "Good day?" I said, "Yeah," my mind on the pillow. The radio played a soft tune, and I sketched, the line steady. She said, "Tired?" And I said, "A bit," my voice cold. I went to the bedroom, the pillow untouched, and lay down, the sheets cool, the plan set. I stayed calm. The next day, I went to class, my notes a blur, a friend asking about dinner, and I said, it was okay, my mind elsewhere. At lunch, I ate alone, the cafeteria loud, picturing the drive. I jogged, the air crisp, the weight steady. Home, I fixed a leaky faucet, the drip stopping, and she asked, "Good day?" I said, "Fine," my eyes on her hands. I cooked pasta, eating solo, and sketched, the lines precise, the preparation a quiet move. The tension built. That evening, I cleaned the kitchen, the sink splashing, and she said, "Thanks," her voice light. I nodded, the drive on my mind, and sat on the couch, the cushion sinking. The radio played a soft tune, and I sketched the bed, the line sharp. She yawned, saying, "Bed soon?" And I said, "Yeah," my tone neutral. I went to the bedroom, the pillow waiting, and laid down, her breathing steady. The play me a silent bomb, the preparation complete. The night with a flash drive set left me restless, and I woke early, the apartment still dark, the clock ticking softly at 5 o'clock. The coldness from the recording, Anna's laugh with Tom, he never will know, had hardened into a decision, and I knew today was the day to leave. I slipped out of bed, the sheets cool, and padded to the kitchen, the floor cold under my feet. I made coffee, the kettle whistling, the aroma filling the room, and sat at the scratch table, the cup warm in my hands, watching the steam rise as I planned my exit. The coffee steadied me. I sipped, the taste bitter, and leaned back, the chair creaking, thinking about the drive under a pillow, the Play Me label waiting. The kitchen was quiet, the fridge humming, and I got up, stretching my stiff back, to grab a glass, the cabinet clinking, filling it with water, the tap cold. I drank, the liquid sharp, and decided to pack, the morning unfolding with a calm I didn't feel. The clock hit 5:15, and I moved to the living room, the carpet rough, gathering my thoughts. I watched her sleep. I walked back to the bedroom, the door creaking, and stood by the bed, Anna still under the covers, her breathing steady. Her face was soft, the same one I trusted, now a mask for a time with Tom. I sipped the coffee, the cup warm, and stared, the light faint, thinking about the recording, her sighs, his murmurs, burning in my memory. The clock ticked to 5:20, and I set the cup down, the table thudding softly, my eyes on her hands, the ones I'd heard on that audio, now still. I placed the drive. I lifted the pillow, the fabric cool, and adjusted the flash drive, the plastic snug, the label peeking out. I stepped back, the floor creaking, and nodded to myself, the act final. The bedroom was dim, the curtains drawn, and I thought about her finding it, her shock, her guilt, fueling my resolve. The clock hit 5:25, and I grabbed my sketchbook, the pages flipping, sketching a quick pillow, the lines sharp, the drive a silent goodbye. I set it down, the book thudding, and moved to pack. I packed my backpack. I went to the closet, the door squeaking, and pulled out clothes, shirts, jeans, a jacket, the fabric rustling. I folded them, the motion slow, and stuffed them in, the zipper loud. The clock ticked to 5:30, and I added books, the pages worn in my charger, the cord tangled, the bag heavy. I checked the desk, the wood scratched, grabbing pens and notebook, the ink smudged, and tossed them in. The kitchen clock showed 5:35, and I made tea, the kettle whistling, the cup warm, sipping as I planned. I prepared to go. I grabbed toiletries in the bathroom, the cabinet creaking, toothbrush, soap, the plastic cold, and added them, the bag bulging. The clock hit 5:40, and I laced my shoes, the laces tight, the floor cool. I made more coffee, the kettle loud, and drank, the taste sharp, thinking about the apartment, her plants, my sketches, now just a memory. The living room was still, the couch cushion sunken, and I sat, the bag beside me, the morning quiet. I took the final look. I stood, the floor creaking, and walked to the bedroom, the door open. Anna slept, the the covers rising, and I stared. The clock at 5:45, her face peaceful, a lie I'd lived. I thought about the recording, her laugh. Better than him, Tom forever, and felt the coldness, the drive her truth. I sipped the coffee, the cup warm, and nodded, the decision set. The kitchen clock ticked to 5:50, and I grabbed my jacket, the fabric rough, slipping it on, the weight of leaving real. I left. I slung the backpack over my shoulder, the strap digging, and took a last look. The table, the couch, the bedroom door. The clock hit 5:55, and I opened the front door, the hinge squeaking, stepping into the hall, the air cool. I locked it, the key cold, and walked down the stairs, the steps echoing, the bag heavy. The street was dim, the morning gray, and I headed out, the coffee cup empty, the flash drive a silent end, my exit complete. The day began. I found a bench, the wood wet, and sat, the backpack beside me, sipping water from a bottle, the plastic crinkling. A friend texted, "Where you at?" And I said, "Out," my tone flat. I jogged, the air crisp, the weight steady, and ate a granola bar, the wrapper rustling. At a cafe, I ordered tea, the cup warm, and sketched, the lines precise, the morning a new start. The drive lingered in my mind, her finding it, and I felt the coldness, the leaving a quiet break. I settled. Later, I checked into a cheap room, the door creaking, and unpacked, the clothes rustling. The clock showed 10 o'clock, and I made coffee, the kettle loud, sipping as I sat. Anna called, the phone buzzing, but I didn't answer, the silence a shield. I sketched the door, the lines sharp, and went to bed, the sheets cool, the morning's exit a scar. The next day, I went to class, my notes a blur, a friend asking about home, and I said, "It's done." My mind on the drive, the leaving final. After leaving that morning with the flash drive on Anna's pillow, a day passed, and the silence broke with a message that hit like a jolt. I was in a cheap room near campus, the walls thin, the clock ticking at 6 p.m., unpacking my backpack, the clothes rustling, the coldness from the recording, her laugh with Tom, he never will know, had settled, and I sat on the bed, the mattress creaking, sipping coffee from a paper cup, the taste weak. My phone buzzed, and his name flashing, and I opened it. "What is this?" The word stark, her shot clear. The message stunned me. I stared at the screen, the backlight harsh, and felt a flicker of something. Anger, maybe, or satisfaction, knowing she found the drive. I set the cup down, the table wobbling, and paced the room, the floor cold. Thinking about the Play Me label, the audio she'd heard, her voice, his murmurs, the bed sounds. The clock hit 6:05. And I grabbed a notebook, the pages flipping, jotting 6 o'clock, first message. The ink smudged. I didn't reply, the silence a shield, my mind replaying her laugh, now her confusion. I waited. The room was dim, the curtains drawn, and I made tea, the kettle whistling, the steam rising, sipping as I sat. The phone buzzed again, her name popping up. "It's not what you think. The defense weak, predictable." I leaned back, the chair groaning, and read it. The word to lie against the recording's truth. Her saying better than him, "Tom's forever." The clock ticked to 6:10, and I grabbed chips, the bag crinkling, eating, the salt sharp, my resolve hardening. I wrote 6:10 denial, the note growing, the message a plea I ignored. The day replayed. I thought about the morning, her sleeping, the drive place, my exit, the plan unfolding. The room was quiet, the fridge humming, and I sketched the phone, the lines jagged, the coffee cooling. The clock hit 6:15, and I stood, stretching my stiff back, pacing again, the floor creaking. Her message echoed, "Not what you think." But I knew the 40 minutes, touches, sighs, he never will know, left no room for doubt. I sipped the tea, the taste flat, and sat, the phone silent, my decision brewing. I considered replying. I typed, "Listen again," the letter stark, but deleted it, the screen clearing. The clock ticked to 6:20, and I made more coffee, the kettle loud, the cup warm, thinking about her finding Tom's voice, her guilt. The room felt small, the walls closing, and I grabbed granola bar, the wrapper rustling, eating as I paced. The phone stayed quiet, the message unanswered, and I sketched the pillow, the line sharp, the drive a reckoning. The clock hit 6:25, and I sat, the coldness steady. The tension grew. Another buzz, and again, "Please talk to me." The desperation clear. I read it, the screen glowing, and felt the fire from the recording, Now ash. The clock ticked to 6:30, and I wrote 6:30 plea, the notebook filling. I stood, the floor cold, and made tea again, the kettle whistling, the cup steaming, sipping as I thought. Her denial, not what you think, clashed with the audio, and I shook my head, the room spinning slightly. I ate more chips, the bag crinkling, the salt stinging. I decided to end it. The clock hit 6:35, and I opened her contact, the screen bright, hovering over block. The room was still, the fridge humming, and I thought about the apartment, her plants, my sketches gone. I sipped the coffee, the taste bitter, and press block, the phone clicking, her name vanishing. The clock ticked to 6:40, and I sat, sketching a locked door, the lines precise, the decision final. The silence returned, the message a closed chapter, my exit complete. The night settled. I made more tea, the kettle loud, and sat at the table, the cup warm, sketching nothing, the lines blank. The clock hit 7 o'clock, and I heard footsteps in the hall, the building alive, but I stayed alone. The phone buzzed, a friend's text, "Where you at?" And I said, "New place," my tone flat. I ate pasta, the pot bubbling, and thought about the drive, her shock, the block of clean break. The room was quiet, the clock at 7:15, and I went to bed, the sheets cool, the message a memory. The next day held. I went to class, my notes a blur, a friend asking about Anna, and I said, "Over," my mind elsewhere. At lunch, I ate alone, the cafeteria loud, replaying What Is This? I jogged, the air crisp, the weight steady. Home, I fixed a wobbly chair, the tools clanking, and she texted from a new number, "Why?" I blocked it, the phone silent. I cooked rice, eating solo and sketched, the line steady, the message a scar, the block my piece. The quiet grew. That evening, I cleaned the room, the sink splashing, and sat on the couch, the cushion sinking. The radio played a soft tune, and I sketched the phone, the line sharp. A friend called, asking plans, and I said, "Just here," my tone neutral. I went to bed, the sheets cool, and lay awake, the clock at 10 o'clock, the message, not what you think, fading, the block a wall, the coldness enduring. After blocking Anna and leaving, some time passed, and I found myself living alone in that cheap room near campus, a calm settling over me I hadn't expected. The walls were thin, the clock ticking at 6 p.m., and I sat on the bed, the mattress creaking, sipping coffee from a mug, the taste warm and steady. The recording, her laugh with Tom, he never will know, was behind me, the flash drive of memory, and I felt at peace, not because I'd shouted or fought, but because I'd simply walked away after hearing the truth. The room was quiet, the fridge humming, and I unpacked a sketchbook, the pages flipping, the silence a choice I'd made. The calm held. I leaned back, the chair groaning, and thought about those days, the pillow with the drive, her messages, the block, all done without rage. The kitchen clock ticked to 6:05, and I made tea, the kettle whistling, the steam rising, sipping as I sat at the scratch table. I hadn't sought revenge, no fists or yelling, just the audio left for her to face. The room was dim, the curtains drawn, and I sketched a tree, the lines smooth, the piece of quiet strength. A friend texted, "How you holding?" And I said, "Good." My tone even. I reflected on the past. I remember the morning I left, her sleeping, the backpack heavy, the door locking, the exit clean. The clock hit 6:10, and I grabbed chips, the bag crinkling, eating, the salt sharp, thinking about the recording, her sighs, if forever, now just noise. I hadn't screamed or broken things, just walked, the truth enough. The room felt mine, the couch cushion sunken, and I sat, sketching a door, the lines precise, the piece growing. The fridge hummed, the clock at 6:15, and I sipped the tea, the taste mild. The silence was mine. I thought about Anna's shock. What is this? And her denial, not what you think, fading echoes. The clock ticked to 6:20, and I made more coffee, the kettle loud, the cup warm, sipping as I paced, the floor cold. I hadn't needed to confront Tom or fight, just left the drive, the silence my move. The room was still, the curtains fluttering, and I sketched a pillow, the lines sharp, the piece of shield. A friend called, asking plans, and I said, "Just here," my voice calm. I lived simply. The next day, I went to class, my notes clear, a friend asking about home, and I said, "Moved on," my mind steady. At lunch, I ate alone, the cafeteria loud, sipping water, the bottle crinkling, reflecting on the quiet exit. I jogged, the air crisp, the weight light, and returned to the room, fixing a leaky faucet, the drip stopping. The clock showed 6:30, and I cooked pasta, the pot bubbling, eating solo, the taste simple, the peace enduring. The routine grounded me. That evening, I cleaned the room, the sink splashing, and sat on the couch, the cushion soft. The radio played a soft tune, and I sketched the clock, the line steady, thinking about the recording's end. He never will know. Now a closed door. A friend visited, saying, "You seem good," and I nodded, "Yeah," my tone light. The clock at 7 o'clock, and I made tea, the kettle whistling, the cup warm, sipping as I sat, the silence of strength. I embraced the quiet. Weeks later, I painted the walls gray, the brush strokes even, and bought a rug, the fabric soft. The clock ticked to 7:15, and I sketched a window, the line smooth, the piece a constant. Anna's old number texted, "Why?" from a new line, but I blocked it, the phone silent, the silence my punishment. I cooked rice, eating alone, and thought about her finding the drive, the truth hitting, no words needed. The peace deepened. I went to bed, the sheets cool, and lay awake, the clock at 10 o'clock, the room dark, the silence the harshest form of letting go. The next morning, I made coffee, the kettle loud, sipping as I sat, sketching a tree, the lines precise. A friend asked about the past, and I said, "It's done," my voice steady. I jogged, the air cool, and cooked chicken, eating solo, the taste mild, the peace a quiet end. Sometimes I thought, silence is the strongest punishment, not for her, but for me, a release from a noise.